welcome to Dabbling in Journals. Today I'm going to share with you my A5 Traveller's Notebook, which I use as a sketchbook. This Traveller's Notebook was made by Meadowgate Leather. You can find Meadowgate Leather on Etsy if you're interested. It does lovely Traveller's Notebooks, all beautifully hand stitched. You can choose your colour, you can choose your string colour, you can choose your stitching colour, you can choose your pocket configuration. So very customisable, and a really nice chap that makes them. So I really like this notebook. I have rolled it, so when it came the leather was very smooth, but I did roll it just because I wanted to see what would happen. Okay, so on the front of this I've just got a charm that I made, which has got some little beads and little brass ujma flips. I don't know what to call them. They're like acorns and a little wine goblet. I've got a little brass flower, and I have another charm on the spine, again, which I made. It's got some feathers and bells and 2 binder clips for holding my notebook open. Okay, let's have a look inside. Inside this Traveller's Notebook I have 2 pockets, just secretarial pockets, which is what I asked for. So I've got one in the front, one in the back, and I've stuck some plastic see-through pockets. These were from a pen friend from America, so they're from Target Dollar Spot or something, I think it's called. So I've got one on the back and one on the front. In this first pocket I've just got a plastic book cover that doesn't have a book in it at the moment. I'm just holding scraps of paper that I use when I'm sketching in my sketchbook and I want to just try out a colour or something like that. Then I have my sketchbook itself. This sketchbook I made. This is the first time I've had a go at making my own sketchbook. The advantage being, of course, that you can choose the exact paper that you want to put in your sketchbook. So this sketchbook I made, I stitched the spine. I went wrong. I think there somewhere I went wrong, but it still holds together fine. And I have 4 signatures in here, so I have different kinds of paper, which is really cool. So I can, depending on what medium I want to use, I can use the paper that I prefer for that medium. The cover, I just got hardboard or cardboard or whatever you call it, and I covered it in pretty pattern paper, distressed the edges, put some matte Mod Podge on it just to protect it a little bit. Did the same with the back. This beautiful paper is from Stamperia. That's the inside. It's really pretty, and I love this musical one. Okay, so inside the sketchbook, my first signature, I've used Canson the Wall paper, which is for alcohol markers, and it's amazing because if I show you the other side of this sketch, it doesn't bleed through at all, and I've put a lot of dark coloured marker on here and no bleed through whatsoever. That is a disadvantage if you're somebody who likes to trace using a light box, because you won't be able to, so you will have to like freehand draw. But really cool paper, really smooth, and you can see the marker goes down really well. But I think that is my first alcohol marker colouring, so I was really pleased with how it came out, and I was really, unusually for me, experimental with my colour. So that was really fun to do, and I plan to do some more alcohol marker drawings, and I might show it on my channel. My next signature is watercolour paper. Again, this is a medium that I'm just sort of in the process of learning how to use. So I've put cold press watercolour paper. I wish that I'd done my last signature in hot press so that I could have compared them, but I didn't think of it at the time. So this is cold press watercolour paper, 100% cotton, because as I understand it, 100% cotton paper is easier to learn on. So I just did this watercolour illustration of some macaroons. I'm not sure, because I can't remember why I was swatching colours out. I think I must have been comparing. I got a new Winsor & Newton watercolour tin on sale, really good price, so I couldn't resist it. And I was comparing, I think, the colours with the ones that I have in my sort of desk palette. This watercolour drawing I did, it's my son's hand holding his pet gecko. I was really pleased with how the skin tone came out. Some of the fingers are a little bit squished and peculiar, but I was really happy with how the skin tone came out, and I wish that I'd said what colours I'd use so that I could repeat it. So note to self, always swatch your colours. This drawing, which is of a croissant and a cup of coffee, happy with the croissant, but I cannot draw saucers. I don't know why, I just can't get the proportions right, so I need to practice those. And that's a watercolour drawing of a head, because if you've seen any of my other videos, you know I really like drawing heads. And again, I want to experiment a little bit more with different skin tones and different combinations, and I need to work on how to do hair in watercolour. I can do hair with colour pencil, but I don't really know how to do it with watercolour. So I will be learning that at some point if you're interested to follow along with me. My next signature is just sketch paper. It's thinner sketch paper, which I use for pencils. So that's just a graphite quick sketch. That was a sketch I did at the beginning of the lockdown because my daughter works in A&E, and I was feeling really proud of her because obviously it was really hard work in the accident and emergency department in a hospital. And that one, I drew that when I was in a huff because I'd been shopping and people kept coming in my space, and at the time we were being told to keep 2 meters apart. So after that I had my shopping delivered, and that's just some pastel pencils. I thought I'd see whether or not pastel pencils would work on here, and they do. You have to seal them. Could have done with putting a few highlights on here, but it was just an experiment. You can't do very many layers because it's thin paper, but you can do something, you can sketch. So that was interesting. And then my last signature is obviously not used yet. That's another watercolour one because that's what I want to focus on learning. Okay, my next insert, this is just a swatch book. I find it really handy having my sketchbook and my swatch book together. So in here I've just swatched my art supplies. I've got my watercolours, watercolour pencils, Inktense pencils. And the reason I have so many is because I subscribe to Scrawlerbox, and you know, you get a few things to try and then you want to buy more. So that was what I got in the Scrawlerbox, and then I bought a set. For example, these are Zicklin colour markers, Neocolour water soluble crayons. I love those for journaling. Gouache, I haven't even begun learning how to use gouache, but I will do at some point. It's lovely to have it there ready. My acrylic paint I haven't swatched yet, but I tend to just use that when I'm making scenery for my daughter's dance school. So it's really big, sort of really big drawings that I do just for fun. Alcohol markers, I need to swatch on that, the wall, cancelling the wallpaper, because they would just go straight through this, so it's no point swatching them on this, but I'll just swatch them on that cancelling the wallpaper and stick them in when I get around to it. Some metallic ones, and my pride and joy, my colour pencils. As you can see, I have far too many colour pencils, but what I found really interesting in swatching them all out is that I've put all my polychromos on the left, all my luminance in the middle, and all my light fast here, and then I can compare to see what colours are different and what are duplicated. So for example, if I ran out of that cadmium yellow, I'd know I don't need to replace it because I've got other yellows that are really similar. So eventually I'll sort of reduce the number of pencils that I have as they use up, which they do fairly quickly because obviously you have to sharpen them. So, and the other thing I found interesting was, whilst most colours, if I was starting again buying coloured pencils, I would probably just pick one brand, buy them all, and then, because I like drawing heads, I would have got all the skin colours from all the 3 brands because they are all different, whereas in the other colour ranges there's not very much difference. You know, they offer similar colours. Obviously the polychromos offer a lot more colours than the other 2, so I would have probably gone with polychromos and then added in the skin colours from the other 2 brands. So that's my swatch book. I've swatched some pastel pencils here, which is why it's got this glassine, because they rub off. Made a little pocket in the back of my sketchbook. This was for me to try and learn hand lettering, which I cannot do to save my life, but I'm going to keep persevering. So that's my swatch book, and then this last folder in the back of my sketchbook is just a place for me to hold bits and pieces. So I've got a value finder, I've got a colour wheel, I've got some laminated sheets if I need them, and other bits and pieces that are in there. I don't know what, just bits of scraps of paper, I think. So I keep that in the back pocket of my notebook. And I really like having my sketchbook with my swatch book with my other bits and pieces, because it's really handy having them all together. And I just have a mechanical pencil here and a white gel pen here in case I lose my highlights and I want to pop them back in. So that's everything that I have in my A5 Traveller's Notebook sketchbook. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching. Bye.